So I was thinking this week about how we were in the anxiety book club together. And I looked, and it's been 2 years since we've done the anxiety book club. It did not feel that long ago, I'll be honest. But it was making me think about how much I have changed and grown since that book club. And I think a conversation today would be good about what does it look like to go through something like the anxiety book club and addressing things that God is addressing in our hearts and in our minds, and how he utilizes that, and even years later how we're still receiving the fruits of that labor, right? So, first off, let's talk about the anxiety book club. It is not currently being run because you stopped it 2 years ago.
Yeah,
But why did you start it in the first place?
because I have anxiety. I was like, well, I deal with anxiety. There's books on anxiety. I'm sure other people deal with anxiety. So, hey, why not? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I remember the first one didn't get a lot of people. So then I was praying about, like, is this something God still wants me to do? And that's when I came to you. I was like, yeah, can you pray? I'm not sure, if I should continue this or not. And then you offered to just to jump in to help to give that extra person, and I'll let you take it from here. What happened after that?
So, yeah, so that was funny because we're best friends. We can sit here and talk for 5 hours, no problem. And so I was like, well, if it's just the two of us in the anxiety book club, then we get to sit and hang out and talk about the book and other stuff because it's just the two of us. So why not? I will be a good friend and join the anxiety book club just to help you out. That was my thinking, right? And then we start sitting and reading the book. And our first book was what? Breaking Anxiety's Grip by Dr. Michelle Bengtson? I'm probably totally mispronouncing that last name. But we started reading that book, and all I could think about was, oh, wait, maybe I do have anxiety. Maybe God does want me in this book club because he wants to work on my anxiety, not because I'm such a good friend. So, because of your book
Or it
club,
could be both.
it could be
Both
both.
things can be true at the same time, because I will say, you were joining to give the extra person, or in case, other people didn't join. And what happened? We did end up having quite a few other people in that first round that you joined, and it was a really great group. So
It was. They were
both things.
amazing. It's yes. It just is wonderful how God uses our initial intentions when he obviously has bigger and better plans for us. And then he reveals them to us as we're going along. And it cracks me up every time I think about, oh, what a great friend I'm being to help you out. And God's like, no, I want to work on something. But I legit did not know that I suffered from anxiety until I read that book and she started talking about things. And I was like, whoa, that explains so much of my behavior in certain situations. Because, like, your anxiety is completely different than my anxiety. Completely. But the principles, the
Yes.
underlying principles of how to handle anxiety from that book applied to both of us. And it just blew my mind about how much I suffered from anxiety and was completely oblivious to it until that book club.
Yeah, I think it's easy to not realize what anxiety is. And because people explain it different all the time. So you hear one explanation, you're like, well, I don't deal with that, so I don't deal with anxiety. But there's so many different types of anxiety, and anxiety comes out in so many different ways and so many different symptoms. So yeah, it could totally be easy to miss that. Um, I have numerous types of anxiety, so I just couldn't miss it. There's just no missing that for me. Yeah, I think it was around 21 when I had my first panic attack. Um, and then just kind of from there on, realizing the anxieties that I had, and then social anxiety, that I talked about, in our first like full longer podcast, and just so many other other ones. So just having that many anxieties, the main reason why, yeah, I started this book club. and to connect with other people. I knew other people were struggling too. So it was just it's a great way to it was a great way to connect, even if all our anxieties were different.
And
It
they
was still
were.
relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a group of like what, 5, 6 people, and all of us suffered in completely different ways from anxiety. And how it manifested itself was completely different for every single one of us, and yet we all still got something from the book.
And we had one lady who really didn't deal with anxiety, but she wanted to jump in with friends and learn more. And I thought that was
Mhm.
beautiful, like to learn more for the people around you, for your friends. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that is something too that like you suffer from social anxiety. I obviously people I do not suffer from social anxiety. But it helped me also understand you cuz in that book club you were talking more about it and it helped me realize, oh, cuz it's so different. It's so foreign to me. I don't understand at all what it's like to be nervous to talk to people or talk in front of people. Anything like that. It just boggles my mind. That's not me at all. But I loved being able to understand you better. And you're my best friend. And I had no idea, right, how much that affected you until we started going through this book together. And I think even if you don't join a book club, going through books like this or even similar topics, not even anxiety, but like topics that you might be able to help relate to the people in your life, best friends, spouses, parents, siblings, anything like that. The amount of books I've read in other book clubs that help me understand my family better. And I'd be sitting there like, oh, that's why they are the way they are, or that's why they do what they do. And it really helps me relate to them better, or, however God wants to move and work in your life. And it books with people really help you grow. And yes, the Bible's the ultimate source. And that's why you have to be very discerning when you read these type of books and make sure that they always take you back to the Bible. How does the
Yes.
Bible say to handle anxiety, right? And that's one thing I loved about all the books we read is that they really all took you through the Bible. And what does God say about anxiety? But they also give you very practical the time that we live in approaches to anxiety and how our anxieties today look so different than the people back in ancient Israel or or shoot, even go back, you go back 60 years. They didn't have the technology that we have today. We have significantly different stressors and anxieties with technology than people 60 years ago did, right? But the Bible is still
Yes.
applicable to today, and how the authors just really help bring that in and explain it to you. So it's very important that the sources that you read are always going back to the truth, which is the Bible, and double checking that the authors are actually utilizing the scriptures appropriately. Because, yes, it's easy to take one line of scripture out of the Bible and apply it to whatever it is you want to apply it to, but you always need to read within context. And I feel that all of the authors that we read, and I think we'll either name them or list them or both within the podcast, I feel like all the authors that we read in that book club were very well grounded and sound as far as biblical advice was concerned.
Yes. Yes.
So I know I mentioned the first one, which was Breaking Anxiety. What of the books that we did read in that book club, which one or ones would you recommend to our viewers if they do suffer from anxiety or
I
know someone?
yeah, I think my favorite probably was that first one that we read because there's a lot of application, there's a lot of what you can do. Yes, it still brought up, Jesus, and it was like you said. Sorry, mosquito trying to get me.
Kill
But
it.
they're horrible over here, and I'm outside. But
So it's not a fake background, people. That's a
it's
real
not.
background. That is
This is
her
real.
garden. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, my nana with all her plants, like I can't take credit for it. It's all my nana and her green thumbs. But it's just the application in that book, and she's a doctor, so there's that science combination with application. It's like it's just something that helped me understand anxiety more, and it's just that combination of science and Bible, all these things together, um, that I just really liked and really made a difference. And then, and again, like they're all great, right? But the other one too that really had an impact was Winning the War in Your Mind, by Craig. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, and he's pretty
Groeschel?
Groeschel. Yeah, yeah.
Sure, I'm probably
I
mispronouncing. I
don't remember.
apologize, Greg. If you watch this post, I'm sorry.
Um, I love that one too because he did also um talk about the brain and the connections
Yeah.
in your brain, and he talked about how anxiety is like there's this rut in your brain, so it's going to be easier to walk down it, and so that's what kind of the anxiety is easier to go down that path. um, and then each chapter he had things to do and things to write out and questions to ask yourself. So it was the application that made you actually do something with the book, right? There's other books you just read, and if you don't do something, if you don't talk about it, you don't share, you don't, look within yourself, you don't ask these questions, you're not going to get anything out of it. And not that the other books you didn't, it's just it was more on you to do it. And this one was like, here, this I'm gonna give you these questions. I'm gonna give you these tasks. And kind of push. Like I need a little bit of push sometimes, to actually apply things. And so I really, yeah. So those are my top two. All the other ones are great. Um, they're really great. But yeah, for those reasons, those are my top two. Those what I would say. If you had to read if you had to pick two out of all of those, I would say pick those two.
I would agree that Winning the War in Your Mind was definitely one of my favorites. I still remember the talk about neural pathways and that you need to create new neural pathways so that you're not going, again, to your point, to the same old ruts over and over again. And
Yes.
it just, I don't know anything about the brain. I'm not a science minded person in any way, shape, or form. And so to be able to have him explain it in such a way, I was like, that makes sense. It really does. And so
Yeah.
I still, 2 years later, I still think about the creating new neural pathways and what does that look like? And it's hard. Like, honestly, all these books will tell you it is very difficult to try and do any of this because our bodies are have naturally been responding this way for how long, right? And that's why you need to let the Holy Spirit in and really come and work on you. The other book that I really like and I wanted to mention before we continue on is Get Out of Your Head by Jennie Allen. That one, I don't know if it was just because it was more of a mental clarity for me because I think that book did not have nearly as much like physicalness to do or activity wise
No.
as the other books. But there was just some things in there that she said that were so profound to me that really made me sit back and just think. And it really caused a lot of self reflection. And I really enjoy books that make me sit and really think about topics and think about myself and God and how is he working in me? How is he not working in me because I'm not letting him? Right. And so I would strongly recommend that book because there was just so much in there that I found that helped me really see how anxiety was affecting my life and so many more ways. And I think one of the things I realized while reading that book was that I was not treating my family the best when my anxiety was high. And I didn't realize that my anxiety was high, right? Because I was not cognizant that I had it. And so it wasn't until after reading that book. And then I think she even mentioned some stuff in there about how, you can start snapping at your family. And it took a step back. I was like, oh, wait, I do that. I start getting like, we need to leave. We need to leave. We need to go. And it's like, I felt that, like, I just felt physically like I was doing this with my entire family. And then,
Yeah.
and then it's like, you need to take a step back. When do you start doing that? Under what circumstances? And then I noticed the pattern. I was like, oh, this is what's causing me anxiety. And that's going to flip into how does this look 2 years later? We've read these books. They were all great books. I will still say I still suffer from anxiety. Uh, However, it's easier for me to identify now when I'm starting to feel anxious. And I've taken some of those, I don't remember what book it was that recommended that we write on 3x5 cards, like all these different verses about anxiety and post them up where you're going to see them. So I have 4 verses posted up in my bathroom because, I mean, you have to use the restroom, so you're going to see them. um, But I also have a whole bunch on my refrigerator because if I'm not in the bathroom, I'm probably in the kitchen cooking or cleaning or something. But anytime that my anxiety, like I start feeling it, I can go to those 3x5 cards and it just quick reminder exactly what God is telling me about my anxiety. And 2 years later, they're still on my fridge. They're still in my bathroom. I still have some up in my bedroom that I can stop and just look at. And it's just such a helpful reminder. So taking stuff like that, right? And just keep applying it day after day, year after year. 2 years later, yes, I still have anxiety. It's not as bad. Like God has really worked in me. I do still have it, yes, but I'm not snapping at my family because I recognize that is when I snap at them and I start getting really short and short tempered. And like they don't deserve that. They did nothing wrong. It's because I'm feeling anxious. And so now what I've noticed is it has morphed into I'm now subconsciously stressing about stuff and I don't realize it. And my husband will have to point it out. He's like, X and Y and Z is going on right now. Is that stressing you out? And like, or it's going to happen. Is that stressing? And I have to, again, take a step back and think about it. That, like, I'm not snapping at my family, yes. And when certain things happen, I can address my anxiety because I physically feel it in that moment, right? But now I have to address the subconscious. My brain knows something's coming and it's falling into that rut. And while like my neural pathways have changed when the day arrives or when the event arrives or whatever happens arrives, I now need to work on the neural pathways from before. Like my brain recognizes stuff is coming and now I'm starting to stress, but I don't recognize it because it's all happening like I'm not sleeping well. So now I'm starting to notice a pattern. Okay, when I'm not sleeping well, what do I have coming up? So I take a step back. What is going on in my life that's making me not sleep well? Oh, I have this coming up. Like I have a trip coming up. I am subconsciously stressing about that trip. Now, physical Jessica is like, nah, I don't need to pack yet. That's not for another month. I don't even need to make a list to pack yet
Yeah.
because it's not for another month, right? But subconsciously, I think sitting in my brain, you got to go through an airport. You don't like flying. You don't like getting on a plane. And you know how much I hate turbulence. Guys, I will cry on a plane if there's turbulence. I am a baby. But I know like I have to fly. And I'm pretty sure that that is subconsciously stressing me out. And so I'm not sleeping well, right? So it's stuff like that you have to let the Holy Spirit really work in you and identify what are areas that you need to surrender over to Him. I can't control the plane. I need to give that over to God and let God just take it, right? And it's
Yeah.
still a process. I'm still working on it. I am not
Yeah.
healed of my anxiety, but it has gotten significantly better
Yeah.
because I recognize it and handed it over to the Lord. Anyway, I'm gonna start talking. You talk about how like 2 years later, how has it been for you? Your social anxiety and doing
Yeah. I
podcasts.
mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you guys know if you've been watching from the beginning, you know that I feel like I've been getting better. Um, and to your point of like you have to fly, right? And so you still got to do it. Um, there's something in still doing something that every time you do it, it gets easier. The anxiety may not always go away completely, but it lessens and it's easier to manage. And one thing in my life that really made me, take a turn with my anxiety, wasn't the book clubs. The book clubs really helped. The books helped to add on to it, but what really started it, and maybe one of the reasons why I wanted to jump and, run a anxiety book club was, just one, like, saying in my head that God said, um, and now I'm forgetting. I'm losing my train of thought here. Basically,
Yeah.
I had asked God to take away my anxiety, and God said no. It wasn't about taking away, it's about, following God, and saying yes to God and, not letting the anxiety take away from it, right? And not allowing it to stop me from doing anything. And so even just running regular book clubs has helped. I mean, I one of the anxieties are, social anxiety. And so I'm like, okay, I have this anxiety, but I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to, keep me from obeying God. right? And then doing even the anxiety book clubs, it's like, okay, um, it can be a little nerve-wracking to go into book club and you have strangers, and you're sharing personal details. Now, for our members, we always say, like, don't share what you don't feel comfortable sharing, right? But someone leading it, I'm like, I gotta open up. Like, can't lead this book club and then just like not share anything about myself and my anxieties. And so, it may have taken a couple rounds, but eventually it was just like, yeah, I deal with all this stuff, and some of it's embarrassing, but I'm just gonna be honest and say this is the type of anxiety I'm dealing with. Um, and so, that vulnerability really does help you in the anxiety, right? That first step is saying, okay, I do have anxiety, and then sharing with people that you have anxiety. And it's like, it loses the power. Like, once you say it out loud, once you tell people, it really does lose some of the power. Again, like, it's not that it goes away 100%. Um, but, you know, it's just a lot easier. And yeah, again, like, we don't do the same anxieties, but I think, you know, just saying, no, I'm not going to let it affect me. I can feel it, but I'm not going to let it, allow me to do something I shouldn't do, or to keep me from doing something I should do. And a lot of times for me, it's not even something that is logical, if that makes sense. Like, there's a disconnect. I'll have anxiety and I'll be like, I'm fine. I know I'm fine. But my body's like, nope, you're not fine. I'm like, logically, I'm like, no, I'm fine. I can trip, fall, hurt my arm. And this is one of my anxieties, is like the medical. And then my arm hurts and my body's going crazy. Like, it wants to go into panic attack. And I'm like, I'm fine. It looks fine. It hurts a little bit, but it's not an emergency. And my body's like, nope, I think it is. I think it is. And so for me, one of my anxieties is that disconnect from what I logically know, but my body's like, I don't care what you think you know. I think it's an emergency. I'm like, no, it's not. Stop. So that's why I do like the books that were more I can't even say the word.
Applicable?
Thank you.
Sure.
There's some words I just can't say. I don't know why. Because in those moments, it gave me something to do. Right. Because logically, again, there's a logic, like, I'm fine. God is good, but my body doesn't care. So to be able to have other resources that, give you ideas of how to manage that in that moment, what to say, what to do, what to look for, really did help for me and some of my types of anxieties.
Yeah, I definitely feel like going back and rereading some of those, just because, yes, while my anxiety has gotten better, to your point, you have that disconnect, right? Like, I'm like, logically, I'm fine. Nothing's going on. Everything is peaceful. So why do I feel this way? Right. And then just going back through those books and looking at those tips and tricks, right? Of not just reading the 3x5 cards with all the verses on it. Maybe now I need to write out the verses, right? Or I know there's lots of other tips and tricks that they give that I've totally forgotten about because it's been 2 years since we've read those books. So I think going back and rereading them, right? And just refamiliarizing yourself with how you can handle this new type of anxiety, right? That you're now going through. Now that you've worked on some of it, let's work on the rest of it, right? So you got to take it in chunks. You can't just like go through and, take care of it all at once, unfortunately. But I love your point about how God said no to taking away your anxiety, because there is a beauty in letting God work through your faults. And because I think about, if God had healed you immediately, God healed you from your anxiety, you have no more anxiety at all, and you go off and do these things, you're going to forget that you ever had anxiety. And then you're going to
Yeah.
forget that God healed you from
Yeah.
it. And then you're going to forget that he gets all the honor and the glory, right?
Yeah.
Versus we are sitting in that anxiety and God's constantly reminding us of his goodness. He's constantly reminding us, like, you may not be healed, but I am making you better. I'm making you more like me, because we get refined through the fires, right? We don't
Yeah.
get, I like to say, we don't get refined on pillowcases of clouds and a comfy bed. you know, we get refined through those fires, and the fires hurt and they're hard and they're difficult. But when you let Christ work through you, you're going to remember the fire, and you're going to remember how good he was and he got you through
Yeah.
that. So when you hit that next moment and you're like, oh no, Lord, what do I do? You can be actively reminded, he got me through that. If he got me through that, he's going to get me through this. And I can give him all the honor and the glory again and
Yeah.
again and again. And yes, it may lessen our anxiety. It may still be there, or whatever issue it is you're going through. It may not even be anxiety, right? It just might be that thorn in your side, if you will, that Paul has. But it's to remind us constantly we are to be leaning on him, on Christ, not on ourselves. And every time, if he were to heal us, every time something's wrong with us, we're going to forget, because that's who we are as humans. We're so focused on the
Yeah.
here and the now. We're not going to remember 3 years from now that God healed us from something, right? And so
Yeah.
I think there is beauty in letting God work through your difficulties. And it's not easy, it's not fun, and I'm not ever going to sit here and say, like, you deserve it, or and it's okay to pray for healing, and it's okay to pray and keep asking God, right? Because he says you have not because you ask not. You know, continue to ask, continue to seek. But if God says, no, not right now, I want to wait till heaven to heal you, he has a reason and a purpose. And it could be very well in this situation, you having anxiety helped me realize I have it and how it's affecting me. And now how I can identify it in my daughter when she has it, and how I can help her work through hers because I now recognize that I have it, right? Like you having anxiety has blessed other people because you have helped others realize it, right? At the very least, you've blessed me and you've blessed my family, right?
Oh,
So just to see how good God is and that he works through that, you can reach more people, right? If you can identify, you can empathize with them.
yeah.
And if you're constantly perfect and healed, how are you going to empathize and help other
Yeah.
people? So I think it's beautiful that when God says no, that he turns it into something so much more beautiful than if he had said yes to the healing.
Yeah, I have definitely grown so much just within all these anxieties, and like you said, if it was just not there, I think I just would forget, you know? I would just be like, "Oh, he helped me," and then, maybe even just weeks down, I'd just totally forget about it because that's how we are as humans. It's just, we take things for granted and yeah, like, to be honest, like, I probably would. So, it definitely has helped me grow and be who I am too. Like, it has shaped my personality and everything that I've done. So, I'm very grateful that God has just kinda helped me in this process instead of taking it away. Yeah.
And utilizing book clubs to do it too. And it's beautiful. That's why we call it a ministry. I mean, even if it's a fiction book club, right? Like, and it's not focused on anything like anxiety. Stuff like anxiety might come up in those book
Yes.
clubs, and it might be able to help you talk about stuff that someone might be struggling with and you don't realize it, right? So it's beautiful how God works. And we hope that the list of anxiety books that we read will help you out if you suffer from it, or if somebody else suffers from it. If you want to gift it to anyone, I think Christine will list the books out for you.
Yeah.
But they're great books. We highly recommend them. We recommend joining a book club, even if it's not through Wells of Wisdom. Again, it's a virtual book club. So if you want to join, it doesn't matter where you live. As long as you can make the time and the day, you're welcome. But if you can't do that, start your own physical book club in your community. Reach out to other people and get to know them. Utilize fiction, nonfiction books, and see what God does in your life. And just make sure to bring him all the honor and the glory, and he's going to bless you so much for that. So we thank you for joining us, and talk to you soon.